Hey everyone, Skull902 here. The console war between Nintendo and Sega, mainly in the 4th generation, was a particularly competitive event, a no-holds-barred dick measuring contest to see who had not only the best hardware, but the library of games to go along with it. Whether you thought playing with power was the best choice or believed that Genesis really does what Nintendo don't, there's no denying that the real winners were the consumers, as is the case for every good competition. Leading the way for both companies were, of course, their corporate mascots. For Nintendo, the red-clad, princess-saving, high-jumping Mario. For Sega, it was the speedy blue hedgehog with something of an attitude, Sonic. Between 1985 and 1994, these two series became responsible for some of the best 2D platformers ever made, and today, I'm gonna rank them. Classic Mario and Classic Sonic head-to-head. Before we get into the rankings, I want to make it clear that I like every game on this list, so if you're expecting me to bash lost levels, then I'm sorry to disappoint. One final thing. I'm going to be sourcing the footage from my Let's Plays of these games unless I need to point out something specific, so prepare to see a lot of Luigi. I think that just about covers everything. Let's begin. The Pioneer. This game set a standard for platformers back in the NES days. At the time, moving screens and definitive endings weren't yet terribly common. Control of Mario, and Luigi in 2-player mode, is pretty good, if a little heavy feeling. Your movement is basic enough for beginners to get in and go, but it takes a fair bit of playing time to master. You can tell they were learning with this one, but that doesn't make the experience any less enjoyable. In fact, the game's limitations makes its enjoyability even more impressive. It may not be the best, but it's a solid game and respect has to be given for the impact it had on the video game industry, ending a home console crash in North America and solidifying respect for gaming as a form of media in Japan. Before anyone finds me and kicks my ass, yes, I do like this game ever so slightly more than the original. But Skull902, you bastard! The level design is ball-bustingly tough, you might be saying. Well, first, condolences to your balls, and secondly, the game was literally made for people who'd mastered Mario 1. Plus it was the 80s, so it kinda comes with the territory. So yeah, while I might die a fuck ton and get frustrated in the moment, I've gotta give props to the developers for stretching Mario 1's engine to its limits here. We get a lot of interesting new additions and options, such as the wind or the Koopa bounce. Luigi playing slightly different from Mario was a nice touch too. Maybe it's because I started playing this game at the same time as Mario 1, but I've never really seen the problem. For me, the new additions set it just a tiny bit above the original, and if you want to beat me up for it, you can find me at this address. Another placement people are likely to disagree with. Again, I'll make it clear that I think Sonic 2's a great fucking game. There's just some things that bog it down a bit, more than likely caused by its rushed development. For the first half we get all these fantastic zones, Emerald Hill, Chemical Plant, Aquatic Ruin, and so on that really show what these games are truly capable of. Then we get to Mystic Cave and it takes a little dip. In Oil Ocean and Metropolis, problems really start to become apparent. Sky Chase is a nice breather, Wing Fortress is okay, and then things only turn back around once we get to the truly epic final boss in Death Egg. Plus, the special stages. It took me so fucking long to get used to, and sometimes they pull bullshit like rings on the ceiling. Easily the worst ones in the classic series, unless you're playing as Knuckles, then they're a piss take. That being said, Supersonic is a nice reward, though it loses some points for Tails, who already can't fly when controlled by the player, getting no reward for collecting the Chaos Emeralds. Special stages are one thing, but if it wasn't for the drop in the regular zones, Sonic 2 would have cracked the top 4 easy. As it stands, we have a great game that could have been better, and that's why it's the number 6 entry on this list. Okay, so why Sonic 1 over Sonic 2? There's no spin dash, a speed cap when running, and a lack of zones where you can really take advantage of the speed you're given. The thing is, at the very least its zone order has some consistency. Green Hill is fast, Marble Zone is slow so you can catch a break, Spring Yard's somewhere in the middle, Labyrinth is slow, Starlight's fast, and Scrap Brain is mostly in the middle. If not, it's at least a little faster than Marble and Labyrinth. The final boss is pretty bare bones but still enjoyable, and call me insane, which I'm sure isn't hard to do by now, but I actually like the special stages. Mazes were my thing as a kid, so I took to these pretty well. It may not be the fastest, and some of the level design could have used some improvement, but for me, Sonic 1's a pretty smooth ride and I like that a lot. To start things off, I'm referring to the 2011 remake of Sonic CD in this section, as I think it's the definitive version of the game. With that out of the way, this game is kind of an interesting in-between for Sonic 1 and 2 in terms of gameplay. The developers were clearly trying to cover some new ground here with the addition of things like the super peel-out, but others, such as the flipper physics, aren't quite as good as they'd be in later installments. For a player with an admitted lack of skill like me, I think Sonic CD's strength is in its easy difficulty, with the notable exception of the signature race against Metal Sonic. This was the first classic Sonic game I beat, and that gave me the boost I needed to take on the other three. There's no zone that I dislike. The final boss is fun if a little underwhelming, and while I still haven't gotten the hang of the special stages, the game offers an easier, though longer, alternate way to get the good ending, which is much appreciated. The addition of story elements is welcome, even if it's very basic. Bonus points for the lovely beginning and ending animations, and 2 fantastic soundtracks. Solid, fun experience beginning to end in my book. And now it's time for the cream of the crop right here. Back to the Nintendo side of things with Super Mario 3, and my god, what an improvement here between games. Having gotten more time to familiarize themselves with the NES, Nintendo knew they couldn't just make the next game in the Mario 1 engine. This needed to be made from the ground up, and the result is one of the best games on the system. Enhancement chips allowed the game to do some unique things such as diagonal scrolling and sectioning off a portion of the screen. The controls are tight and very responsive. Combine that with the floatier-feeling jump and you can be sure that if you take a death, it's more than likely your own fault. It's one of the more difficult Mario games, not up to the point of lost levels mind you, but this game's gonna challenge you. However, the fantastic level design and vast array of power-ups help even things out. Super Mario Bros. 3 is the gold standard of platforming on the NES, a masterpiece with a legacy that's well deserved. Counting Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic & Knuckles as one, the combined Sonic 3 and Knuckles takes what the previous classic Sonic titles had and improves on it tremendously. Bigger maps, the best special stages the franchise has seen, and a great amount of replay value for the time with the addition of a best ending via the Super Emeralds as well as the differences in Knuckles' playthrough. The level design's expansive but never bad and rewards players for being explorative. There are some truly impressive hidden spots in the game if you know where to look. While a couple of the bosses leave a bit to be desired, they're far and few between. I talked about how rewarding the game can be, and it's not just in level design. Both the Super and Hyper forms are big improvements from the next step down, and the game has no shortage of options. Tails returns with the addition of player-controlled flight, and Knuckles debuts with his ability to glide and break down certain walls effortlessly. Sonic 3 and K also expands on the addition of story elements, with sporadic cutscenes in the zones themselves and transitional ones when you beat them. The soundtrack's great, the graphics are great, most everything about this game is great. The only thing really bringing it down is that it takes combining 2 games to get the full experience. That being said, if you're looking for the best of classic Sonic, it's right here. Regular viewers of mine knew this was coming. In my opinion, Super Mario World is the best 2D platformer ever made and the perfect way for the Super Nintendo to make its way onto the market. While the difficulty is much easier than Mario 3 and the power-up selection goes back to the basics, Mario World does so much to expand on the foundation Mario 3 built it's not even funny. That game's controls felt like a dream. This game's controls feel like a dream's dream, they're so good. New elements such as Yoshi, ghost houses, and secret exits make this game stand out from its predecessors, and let me tell you, it's unbelievably rewarding to cover new land and go for 100% completion. The level design is perfection for the most part, and even when it's not, it's good enough to be forgivable. Same with the Koopalings boss fights. Sure, they're pretty bare bones, but they're a pretty damn good bare bones, and the final boss fight more than makes up for it with its interesting gimmick and climactic setting. This game has a certain charm to it that's just so inviting and sucks you in. I mentioned during my LP of the game that my brothers and I always wondered what would be coming next when we were kids, which speaks for the game's enjoyability. Nice, simple presentation, an ingenious soundtrack, and most importantly, near-perfect gameplay and level design make this a shining example of not just Mario, but platformers as a genre. I have no hesitation to say that this is a 10 out of 10 game, and if you haven't tried it, please do yourself a favor and do so. And that's it for this list. 8 fantastic games right here, and I'm glad I was able to share my thoughts on them with you all. If you feel so inclined, let me know how you feel about them in the comments. Or tell me I'm a dipshit for my selections, either one works. With that said, I have been Skull902, thank you for watching and have yourselves a wonderful day. For me, the new edition set it just a tiny bit above the original, and if you want to beat me up for it, you can find me at this address. Note to anyone who may be listening, I'm not actually giving out my address.